Hey folks, Nathan here from Star Wars Beyond the Films, the Star Wars Timeline Gold, and the Star Wars Gaming Podcast, Cloud City Casino, found at StarWarsReport.com. Bringing you a look at some more of the Star Wars RPG material. Here we have Force and Destiny Disciples of Harmony, a source book for Jedi Consulars. Now, this is one of about 4 of these, and I'm slowly working my way through. Next up is finally going to be Chronicles of the Gatekeeper. I have managed to get through that for the Star Wars Timeline Gold, which means a review is coming soon. After that, I'll be hitting Friends Like These and Mask of the Pirate Queen, both of which are still kind of languishing there in the stuff I haven't had a chance to read yet. But let's take a look here at this latest of source books, very much in the same vein as Endless Vigil was. What we have here, of course, is going to be set up in a similar way to what we're used to. A general introduction, followed by a chapter, in this case, Disciples of Law, that's going to give us all our new character options if we want to play as a consular. So we have specific new background suggestions, not just for the different types of characters in here, but also in the core rulebook, excuse me. We have new morality concepts here. Okay, a nice table there. And we have 3 new species. Now the species, a couple of these kind of interesting. One of them I think is a little bit weird for inclusion, but that's just because I've never been particularly fond of that particular species. So we have Arcanians, Powans, and Caussians. Yes, just like the one Jedi Master that we saw back in Lightsaber Lost. We go from there, we get into our new specializations, including the Arbiter, the Ascetic, and the Teacher. That then brings us out into our new talents, and we have about a 2.5-page spread there of new ones. Then we have consular motivations, which give us a specific growth chart, and the new signature abilities, which always come in a guide like this. We have the ability tree for Much to Learn, an Unmatched Negotiation, and then get us into new force powers, including Imbue, which is like where you would be a force user and essentially use the force to enhance someone else instead of yourself. And then we have the force power Ebb/Flow. That then brings us into Chapter 2, which is going to be all of our new gear and whatnot, as expected. So we have some new weapons. Not a lot of new chronological information in this one. Armor, new gear, a lot of it being somewhat generic. Tools and electronics, weapon attachments, lightsaber crystals, new droids, though it only says new droid singular. I think that's a mistake. Vehicles. Then we're getting into, oops, there we go. Getting into our new starships, including the Crucible class training vessel, which I thought was pretty cool. And then we have Path to Peace, and this is all of your sort of advice and guidance on how to work these type of characters into your Force and Destiny campaign and what to do with them once they're there. So we have a whole section all about mentors, which is kind of cool, and different types of mentors, different archetypes, you might say, of how a mentor might fit into the story and the life of a given character, their history, their style, and so forth, different complications to make it more interesting, some NPCs, then using the mentor once they're in, some encounters that help basically take the mentor through a training process with your character, and then even a little bit on other Force traditions like we might have seen in other guides previously, with this idea that not all mentors are going to teach the same way from the same knowledge base. Speaking of which, that then brings us to Knowledge is Power, which are, again, sort of ways to play with a consular, approaching knowledge, consular tactics, or consular characters, excuse me, having trouble seeing it because I'm looking at it sideways, in the party. And then our consular encounters and adventures, this time not a lot in terms of specific examples of ones you might want to use, but just enough, a small spattering. We have Among the Graves of Yavin, Return from the Dark, and Now You See Me. And they're not very fleshed out, but it's a good enough start that if you're looking for ideas, you can jump straight into it with those ideas and very little fleshing out necessary. Then a whole section on consulars and diplomacy. ways to look at diplomacy, how to deal with it, how to make it engaging in gameplay, until finally we get to a wrapping up of that with spending results in those types of scenarios. So what we have here, again, as you would expect, is a guide that if you're going to be playing as this type of character, is going to be fantastic. The mentor information in particular, I find, is going to be particularly useful, and at least as far as character creation goes, we have a few new options that people might actually want to jump into, especially those who are maybe more familiar with the Legends continuity, may want to jump in as an Arcanian because of all the interesting background that that species has within the Legends continuity. Gaussians, Pauans, we'll see. Pauans maybe, I just have trouble seeing a lot of people wanting to jump in and play as a Gaussian because it's not a species that's really grabbed our attention in a lot of ways yet. But if you're going to be playing as a consular, if you want to have mentor characters in there, if you want to have more of a seeking of knowledge and following of best practices type of character among your Force-sensitive group, you'll definitely want to pick up Disciples of Harmony for Force and Destiny.